Today, I want to talk about the different aspects of our health. I'm going to call them the pillars of health. And I was thinking about these and I did some writing, and I had 4 originally, and now I think I have 5, but I wanted to get on a video and talk about things because some other ideas came in my head that I wanted to share. So, what are the 4 pillars, or what are the 5 pillars? I think I'm going to go with 5. So, 1, nutrition. What you eat, you are what you eat, right? So that's one aspect we all know about nutrition. Exercise is another one, okay? What do you do with your physical body? Exercise and activity. Got to exercise, but you also have to recover from that exercise stimulus, especially if it's really intense. So number 3 is rest and recovery, sleep, and things like that. Number 4, what we're going to talk about today is community. The connection that you have with other people, with God, with your community, in regard to your family, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, that community, that connection and love. And then 5, growth is one that I was just thinking about. Learning, but also challenge. Challenge. So that's something that's very crucial to your health. They show with studies that your brain health is massively influenced by learning. It will deteriorate if you're not constantly challenging it, is constantly stimulating it to the point where you actually get frustrated. Frustration is actually a good thing. And this is why, when you retire or when you stop learning or doing anything that's challenging, that's when you see this sharp decline in your brain health. Well, today I wanted to talk about the community and the community aspect, the connection and love aspect of the pillars of health. And I was just thinking, you can have a shitty diet. Let's just say you shitty sleep, you're not recovering, you're not exercising, you're not doing anything for your growth or learning. You can be in this terrible place. And then what happens? A friend comes over, or you go see a friend, or someone's in from out of town, or you have something happen to you where you're outside of yourself and you're connecting with another human being. And what happens? You start feeling great. You might have felt like shit before. Man, my diet's off, my sleep's off, I'm tired, I'm physically, in pain. And connection, love, that can lift you up. You know what it's like when you're in a relationship, or maybe you don't, but when you're in love, you have this feeling like it doesn't matter what happens. All right. It just, you're in this euphoria, and that can last for many months, sometimes years, with another human being. And so I think if you listen to someone like Sadhguru, right, he's probably saying, why don't you have that all the time? Why do you need to have that experience with another person to have that? You can have that with yourself. This blissed out state, as he talks about it, and he gets that from meditation or just being. And I think that's our natural state. But it helps to have that community, especially if you're someone like myself I can get very negative with myself. So being around other people can be very uplifting. Also, being around other people who are negative can also be very, very draining as well. But I was thinking about, a couple examples of this that really stick out to mind was, I used to, I'm now in 12-step recovery and have problems with alcohol and drugs. And I remember one of my drinking excursions where I was with some friends. We were at a hotel, and I was hung over the next day. Okay, we woke up, and my friend and his girlfriend, they were downstairs and getting some breakfast, and I was super hungover, and we had a bad night. We had to chase one of my friends around who went crazy, almost got hit by a car out in the middle of the street, screaming, yelling, and it was like a super stressful night. We all got hammered, drunk, but it wasn't like we were waking up going like, oh, what a fun night we had. It was like, oh my God, we feel like shit. It wasn't good. Well, I sit down with my friend and his girlfriend. He starts telling me his version of the night's events. And for whatever reason, we start laughing, and howling. I'm falling on the floor laughing because it was just such a ridiculous situation. And the way that he was talking about it, for whatever reason, we started laughing. I am not kidding you. My hangover went away. We weren't even eating. I couldn't even eat anything. We were just sitting down there staring at our food. And the laughter and that getting outside yourself and having this kind of, perspective on things, it helped me physically feel better. And I think that's how powerful connection and love is. And like I said, if you've ever been in a relationship, you might know that like these feelings can help you de-stress and allow you to just feel good no matter what's going on with your diet, with your exercise, with your sleep, with your recovery, with any of these other pillars that we're talking about. And I think it's so powerful, but it's not mentioned a lot. In my industry, I'm guilty of it. I'm offender number one. I'm someone who thinks that you can get all the results. I used to think, at least, that you can get all the results you want just by having the right nutrition, the right supplements, the right sleep, the right exercise regimen, making sure that you're getting enough recovery from that exercise. And I'm missing out, and I don't have a lot of friends. I haven't had a community. I'm very isolated. And what ended up happening? I isolated and I started using drugs and alcohol as a way to make myself feel better. I had all these things in a row. I was doing all these things that were good for my health. I was checking the boxes there, but I was leaving probably for me the most important box unchecked, which was this connection and love. And I think if you're a human being listening to this, which you might be, I don't know, but I would offer a wager to say that you're a human being as well listening to this. That's the biggest box. We've now been conditioned to again think that we can just get an IV with our vitamins and minerals and have our supplies sent to us while we stay inside our homes. As a matter of fact, it's healthy for you. You need to stay at home because there's danger out there. It's probably the worst thing that we could do for a human being. We need connection and love. And that brings me to another thought that I had, which was Tony Robbins. Hate him or love him, what you want to think about with Tony Robbins is this one concept, because it's pure genius, is the 6 human needs. And this relates to it 100%. And connection and love is one of those human needs. But what he talks about are the 6 human needs. You need a need for certainty, okay? You need to know what's going to happen when it's going to happen, because if you don't, if everything's chaotic, you can't live like that. At the same time, though, you need variety. So the second human need is you need change. You need challenge. You need something to come in, because if you knew everything that was going to happen when it was going to happen, although that gives you security, you need that variety. You need that uncertainty as well. So you need certainty, you need uncertainty. Life would become way too boring. So you need that challenge. You need surprise, right? Bad surprises are challenges. Good surprises are the things that we, enjoy and things like that. You need to feel significant, okay? You need to feel like you are important, okay? That's another human need. You also need that connection and love. So out of the first 4, I forget what he calls them the basic human needs, and he calls the other 2 of the 6 the needs of the spirit. But that connection and love is on that list. He also has growth and contribution, and that's what spurred me to think about growth as adding another one. I would maybe these pillars of health might align exactly with the 6 human needs, but for right now, I'm going to keep it at 5. We'll think about the contribution thing, but I think growth is essential for your health. I also think that contributing is essential, but I think just in regard to your overall health, we might be able to get away with that. That might not be as important. But again, this connection and love part, again, we don't talk about it necessarily enough, and especially in the health and fitness area, you see it, but we don't talk about it as much. What's one of the things that you see? The vegan community, the CrossFit community, you have all the powerlifting community. You see these communities of people that have these like-minded things come together. And I think a lot of the benefit is from that. It's not necessarily from the actual exercise that you're doing, although that's part of it. There's a deeper thing for us human beings because we're social, we're mammals, we have to have that. And if you just did your exercise, just did your nutrition, you just got your sleep and your recovery, you're missing out on a huge component to your overall well-being. And for me, I know this in the extreme sense because I was isolated away from everyone. And now I'm part of this community. I'm in 12-step. I have tons of support groups. I have 100 people on my phone that I can call at any time for help. And it doesn't have to be about alcohol and drugs. It can be about anything because they're my friends. They care about me. And I've never had that before. A lot of it was because of my own insecurities. I didn't think that anybody would want to be my friend. And so that is a lie, right? Okay, that's a lie that you tell yourself, or I was telling myself. And the communities are out there. Like I said, there's communities for everything nowadays. And that's a benefit of our online ability to be able to share. Okay. But if we don't use it, like if you're just online, jealous of people, like I don't use the online platforms well because I have these insecurities and I compare myself to other people and I get jealous. But getting out there in the real world, people aren't as scary as they might seem. People are also vulnerable themselves. And so we have these flaws about us, but when we come together, we can uplift each other. And I think it's not talked about as much. There's even research that shows that touch, physical touch, giving people hugs, is analgesic, meaning it's soothing. It literally will help you decrease pain in your body if you have someone touch you and hug you. And that's why we give people hugs when they're crying, is because we want to soothe them, and it actually does soothe them. Just like, holding a baby when it's crying and caressing them, it helps you feel better. And so we've gotten rid of a lot of that in our society, especially since COVID, because we can't touch each other. And that's not good for human beings. It's not good for mammals. Look at dogs. They're rubbing their heads on each other, all right? They're pouncing on each other, okay? Chimps, all right, are picking stuff out of each other's hair, and they're always throwing their arm around each other. I remember that, going to the San Diego Zoo and seeing the bonobos and the chimps, and they're literally arm around the shoulder and stuff like that. That is so crucial to us, the physical touch part, but being around and being in a community. You don't have to be friends with 50 million people. I can't handle having a ton of people. I like quality over quantity, but you have to have it at some point. You have to have that connection. And like I said, you might be doing everything wrong with your nutrition, with your exercise, with your sleep and your recovery. You might have all these things else going wrong. But if you have that, it can really anchor you. And I think that is often overlooked, but it's super important. So what do you do to stay into community? Is it family? Do you have a big family? Do you have lots of events and things, aunts and uncles and cousins and nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters? Do you have that connection from your family? Is it from friends, or do you have a really tight-knit friend group? Do you have these other outlets like, sports that you play, or community events, or do you play an instrument and you're with a band and you have these people that you're able to connect with? What is it for you? And how do you get that? Because I think us in the health and fitness industry need to start considering that as a pillar. It's not something that you can overlook. If you want to hold up your health and use these pillars, that needs to be one of them. So that's what we're talking about today, the pillars of health. We'll dissect these at later dates, but today we're talking about connection, love, community, friends, family, and all of that. How do you get your connection? That's it for today. I'll see you next time.